Welcome to episode 50 of Paris Playbook. Kind of crazy to think 50 episodes. And prior to this, it was 90 plus the Twig Snapper podcast and then merging with this one. And here we are in episode 50. We got a great guest, Drew Tate, former Big Ten quarterback, former pro quarterback, and currently coaching. Drew, thanks for hopping on the podcast on this Thursday night. How you doing?
I'm good, Alex. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's always a pleasure to have a former quarterback who played, college ball and pro ball at different levels. And you've got a lot that we can talk about through your career. So we might as well, kind of go back to the beginning and start there. And I don't know how you want to, I don't know how the story went exactly, the order of these events, but starting kind of with your recruiting, I know you were initially committed to A&M and then you committed to Iowa, and also Army All-America game was in there. So I guess I don't know how you want to go through that, but if you could kind of start by talking about some of those decisions and events.
So back in high school, right? Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah. You're recruiting and
so
then the All-America
yeah.
game, all that stuff.
Okay. So well, the recruiting process was a little different, especially back then. And
Yeah.
it was I got offered a scholarship in the summer of 2001, so before my junior year at A&M. And we had just played there. We've had the 7-on-7 tournament there, and we just had won a state championship there, basically that state tournament or whatever. And right after that, they offered a scholarship. So I was like, well, hell yeah, like I was only 16 years old at the time, right? So that was really
Right.
cool. And so the recruiting, it was mostly, I was committed to A&M really the whole time. And then because R.C. Slocum was the head coach, and he got fired in December, like right after their season. And when he got fired, I decided to look somewhere else, basically. So that was how the recruiting kind of went, because I missed pretty much a whole year of it, year and a half of it, because I'd already been committed. And yeah, I did that Army All American game. It was like maybe the second or third game they had, I think, and that was yeah. So did that, and then after that game. Because I was supposed to enroll, I was supposed to graduate high school in December and enroll in A&M in January. And since I decommitted. I didn't know which school I was going to go to. I went back to high school, and then ended up committing to Iowa actually after that Army game and right at the end of the signing day, because there was only one back then, February 2nd or something.
Do you think that like that All-American game made a difference in your recruiting and like picking Iowa? Like did it really boost you, or was it just something, hey, this is cool, I get to do this?
I think it was just more of just cool. It's good to do this. I don't think those All Star games really had much of it to do with the recruiting process. I'm sure it does at some point, but um, at that time, no, it wasn't anything like that.
Yeah, schools probably have a pretty good idea of if they want a kid or not before the game, or they're already on the radar regardless of how those games work, like you said. So obviously you went to Iowa. I guess let's start with talking about being a Big Ten quarterback, just playing the Big Ten. I mean, depending on who you talk to, people argue about what's the best conference in college football. The Big Ten is the SEC. Every year it's different. This year, some people would say it's Pac-12. Obviously it changes, and different people have different biases towards their answers. But regardless, I mean, Big Ten football, it's good football. You're playing against really good defenses across most teams. And being at Iowa, obviously Iowa is known for their defense, so you get to practice against a really good defense. So, I guess, do you think that was super helpful? Do you as a quarterback, you're practicing against one of the best defenses in that conference, and then you're playing against Michigan, Ohio State, all these different teams throughout the season?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we had a pretty good defense whenever I was playing too, right? Like back in the day. And so, yeah, I felt, especially as a young quarterback, as a true freshman and a sophomore, if you get a chance to go against our defense, you get to rip them. I mean, and that gives you all the confidence you need, I think, at the position, right? So then, like you said, now when you're playing whoever else you're lining up against in the Big Ten, it doesn't matter. You're like, man, we just ripped the best defense in our, their own defense. So stuff like that, yeah, definitely help give you confidence. Absolutely.
What was the like QB competition like? Like earning the job, going through that.
There was a senior my true freshman year, and I was the backup, and then he graduated, and then there was a few guys there that hadn't played. They were young too, and but I was able to be the number two as a true freshman. So I'd gotten all the number two reps throughout the season, and then I got that's and so taking those number two reps during the season's huge. And then you carry that over into spring ball, so then now you're just getting more reps than those other guys, and I just was able just to get more reps. I think I felt more comfortable with the offense because there was a lot of checks, things like that in the run game, pass game, and so I felt like I just had a little bit of leg up on them, and then was able just to really stay healthy and then make plays really. So that was how I stayed on the field.
Right. And there's one game I really wanted to mention out of your college career, and that'd be the 2005 Capital One Bowl, where you guys played LSU. Would have been Nick Saban's last year coaching at LSU, and obviously he's had a long legacy since then, but he was still a great coach at the time, and that was a pretty down to the wire game. You had a 56-yard game-winning TD as time expired. You're the game MVP. I mean, is that game pretty strong in your memory on the events, how they unfolded and what was going on?
Yeah, for the most part. It's been a while, but yeah, I mean, you can still. I mean, it's coming up on 20 years, I think, next year or something.
Right.
But I mean, you still remember that stuff pretty well.
Do you remember like what the kind of feelings were with that final game winning drive? I mean, basically you got to score to win, otherwise, you know, you're done. You're going to lose the game.
Yeah, we really just needed a field goal, and we had a good kicker that year. Schlicker was doing. He was really hot that year, and so we just felt if we just got in the field goal range, Schlicker would bring us home, and we were hoping for a good return, which we got a decent return on the kickoff, and then we just really needed like two first downs, I think, and we had a timeout or two timeouts or something. I can't even remember how many timeouts we had, but we felt fine. We were able to move the ball on them early, and then we stalled a little bit, but yeah, we started getting confidence there at the end as well. And that's just how it unfolded.
Yeah. Well, having played an SEC team in that game, and obviously being in the Big Ten, do you think there can ever really be an argument on, hey, this conference is definitely better than that conference, or this conference is the best? Having played against teams from other conferences and having played in one yourself, do you think that there's ever a valid argument that one is better than the other? Overall.
Yeah, possibly. You're always going to say, who was the best basketball player? LeBron, Kobe, Michael, right? I mean, me personally, I think the SEC is deeper, but like Michigan, Ohio State, I think they can play with any SEC team right now. I mean, Georgia's really up there, right? And uh, who's the second one in the SEC that's up there?
Alabama or
Alabama. I thought there was
LSU
another
or
LSU. They got three losses. Alabama's got what, one? I
yeah,
don't know. It was Georgia and someone I can't remember, but I thought there was like two SECs and then two Big Tens. But like I said, I mean, Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, they had the best players in the league. I always thought Ohio State and LSU had the best really athletes on defense back when I played. So it was, because it's still the same today. The school, the logo
right.
recruits itself.
Yeah. What was it like playing for a school that's known more for defense than offense? I mean, you're a quarterback, you're an offensive guy, but your school is generally known more for having tough defenses.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, I mean, if you're a good quarterback, you would think, oh, that's a good situation. You always have a good defense that's with you. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, there's other components that go into it, not just the quarterback on offense. But yeah, but back then, I mean, the quarterback Brad Banks was just up for Heisman a couple years, the year before I got to school there, right? And so,
Right.
I mean, so I mean, at the time, it was. The offense was more dominant really at that time, and then the defense.
Right.
The next year, it flipped pretty quick.
Right. Yeah. And then more recent years too, it's been Iowa's defense that's been more holding them in and having them good seasons like this year too. They got a pretty solid defense winning some really, really low scoring games.
Yeah.
So, going into your last season, did you have like thoughts of, hey, I want to get drafted. I think I can get drafted, and going through that process, did you expect to get drafted, or were you expecting I'm going to sign with the team after the draft? What was that whole process like for you?
I always felt like I could get drafted because I feel like I could play with anybody and play anywhere. And but like what I learned going in, becoming a pro, and especially in the NFL, that size is a talent, and when you're 6 foot, 195 pounds or something like that, it's a little tough, right? Because, at least if you're 6 foot, maybe you can be 200, 210 or something like that. You can be a little thicker, right? But the most I've ever weighed is 202 pounds. So that's the most I've ever weighed. And I just can't get bigger. But that was fine. I mean, um, I figured like, yeah, because I didn't go to the Senior Bowl. I went to the Shrine game. So I figured, yeah, probably won't get drafted going to the Shrine game. But then, I figured, okay, I'll just have to go and earn my spot. And then I went free agent to St. Louis, and basically it was just a cup of coffee for like a vet that got cut or something that they picked up. So, and then that was it for me. So then I went to Canada. Thought, okay, I'll be in Canada for a year, two at the most, and I was up there for like 11, 12 years. So, still, and then coaching up there now. So it's just wild how it goes.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how things work out. So when you signed with the Rams, I mean, like, was that just like kind of a mini camp type thing? I mean, you were there for like 3 weeks, and then, like you said, you were off to Canada. I mean, what did you move down there? Were you staying in a hotel, or how did that work out?
Yeah, you stay in a hotel and then you're in OTAs, and then they have their OTAs. They get ready for their basically training camp. And OTAs and mini camps, things like that, rookie mini camp, and then just regular OTAs. It's kind of a mix of it, how it was then. Not sure how it is now. And then that was basically to get ready for training camp. And then yeah, they cut me before training camp, and so then basically that's what allowed. No one else wanted me at the time, so and the Saskatchewan Rough Riders wanted me, so I popped up there, and that was how I got up there as a rookie. Now I'm coaching for them.
Everything kind of comes full circle in the end.
Crazy.
So you were with a CFL practice squad for a little bit, and then you ended up signing with the Calgary Stampeders, and you were there for quite a while. But your first season, I think it was with the Stampeders, you dislocated your shoulder in week 2, and you were out for quite a bit of time. That had to have been hard, I guess, mentally. You finally get your opportunity, and then you get hurt, and you're out for a large chunk of the season.
Pretty much, yeah, because that's how I felt at the time, right? But I mean, you're a young player, you don't ever if you've never gone through that kind of experience before, coping with injury or things like that. So it was tough at the time, but now you look back and you're just like, oh man, should have handled it a lot better. But it was easier said now, right? I mean, when you're young and that's all you're focused on, that's all you're thinking about, and then and then it just happens like that. But you know, all happens for a reason. It all worked
Right.
out.
Yeah. And then when you came back, I was reading this is on Wikipedia, so I want to clarify if it was true or not. Not everything on Wikipedia is always exactly accurate, but it said that in the game you returned, you broke your forearm and had a concussion, but you finished out that game with those injuries.
Yeah, pretty much. It was in the playoff game. Yeah,
That had to be pretty
my
grueling.
yeah, it was wild. I got a concussion in the second quarter, and then I think in the fourth quarter, maybe the third. No, I think it was the third quarter. I broke my wrist, my throwing wrist, just like a small little fracture. Yeah, and it just blew up after the game. It's kind of wild.
How'd you finish, with a broken wrist? Like were you
I
able to
don't.
throw the ball at
Yeah,
all, or was it just adrenaline that was keeping the pain down, or
probably. Yeah, I wasn't able to throw the ball really well, but it was still able to come out, and then was still able to throw like a pass there at the end to win it. So it was. Yeah, I don't know how it stayed. It must have had to have been adrenaline because I don't know because by that night after the game, like I couldn't even move my wrist, and I woke up the next morning basically like a cartoon hand. I mean, it was just swollen.
and
Yeah.
the concussion, they didn't pull you out or like make you go through concussion protocol? I mean, I guess I'm sure it wasn't as pushed like it is now with concussion protocol. It's so much in the forefront in pro sports. Was it not really as much of a thing, or
Not, I think it was up and coming really at that time, and
yeah,
then, as a player, you're like, no, 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 I just got my bell rung. I'm fine. That's all just not ready to go back out there.
right. You ended up having quite a few different injuries throughout your CFL career. I was reading like just different injuries, different setbacks. Was that really hard to deal with? I mean, you every time you feel like you're back 100%, you're back, you keep getting held back or you keep getting setbacks from injuries. I mean, how did you deal with that throughout your career?
Yeah, that's it. You had many long nights, many long days. A lot of reflecting, a lot of you know um, compartmentalizing. Self thought and all that stuff. So it was, but the saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." So you just emotionally grow. Now you call it character development, but I wasn't the first person it happened to as a player, and I'm
Right.
not the last person. So it's just that's just the game. That's the worst part about the game is injury.
Yeah. I'm sure it got somewhat easier as you had more because you knew what to expect, kind of. You knew how to go through it. It wasn't the first time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So then towards the end of your pro career, you had a second stint with the Redbacks and then you retired, and then you started coaching, and then you came out of retirement and played again, and then you retired fully. So you kind of had a little bit of back and forth there at the end of your career.
Kind of, not really. I mean, I could see how it seemed like that, but it was I retired and then took a job at Coastal Carolina in the 2018 season. So I had moved down there in June and started a new job, started a new career, basically coaching. And the uh, the writers called in July, I think, or something, because Zach Caleros had gotten a concussion, so he got knocked out. And so they wanted another quarterback to come up, and I was like, "Nah, guys, I'm retired. I'm done." And then the playoffs came. They needed an emergency quarterback, so they called again. And I knew the guys that called and stuff because I'd been up there in the league, small league, and they said, "Well, you just go ask your coach." I said, "Man, there's no way they're going to let me do this. Like I'm coaching, like I'm here helping and." Da, 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 right. And so I go and ask, and they said, "Oh, yeah, you should do it, blah, blah, blah." So I was blown away. I was like, okay, well, all right, that's cool. And they made a thing about it with recruiting and things like that, right? So I just popped up there basically for like a playoff game, and then they got beat, and then I just flew back and continued finish the season, continued my job. I was only gone for like a week and a half, two at the most.
Yeah. Yeah, looking at it on like Wikipedia, it makes it more out like you retired and then you were coaching and now you're like fully back into it. But it was just kind of like a short spur of the moment. Hey, we need somebody for a
Yeah,
weekend. Come on up,
yeah,
and then you were
yeah.
back doing your thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, come be emergency just in case. Put some money in your pocket. Hey, great, cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So you mentioned Coastal Carolina. You also have coached with BC Lions. You coached in the Spring League, UT Martin, Northern Iowa, and now you're at Saskatchewan. Was it a hard transition to go from playing to coaching after play for so much of your life?
Not really, because I grew up as a coach's son. My dad was a coach. My brother's a coach. So I mean, I was inevitable. Just became when it was going to happen. And so no, I've always enjoyed the game, being around the game, like people that like the game, right? And competitive environment. Trying to iron sharpens iron. Try to bring the best out of everyone. So I like that kind of culture and environment. Competitive. I think it's true character comes out. I think it's fun, healthy.
Yeah. You've been, bounced around a decent amount with coaching. I mean, do you like the CFL? Do you want to stay in the CFL? Do you have goals to make it somewhere, certain coaching, or are you kind of just taking everything as it comes?
Yeah, taking everything as it comes, really. Yeah, I love coaching the CFL. I loved coaching college. And then I was about to start coaching high school, but then ended up taking the college job in Tennessee. But, I think there's beauty in all three levels. I enjoy all three levels, enjoy the players in all three levels. So it's really, and then my goal is to be an offensive coordinator and then to be a head coach as soon as possible. That's what I want to do. And yeah, I'm really going to go from there and see what happens.
Yeah. And you got a lot of obviously experience throughout your journey, some adversity that you've overcome. Do you think that makes it easier to connect with players who are having issues, they're struggling? You can relate to them and kind of help coach them through that?
I believe so. I mean, that's why I kind of chose this career path. I mean, I was a player for like 27 years. So, if anyone knows anything about, if anybody knows anything about a player, I might know a little bit about a football player, and what they go through, like mentally and physically and
Right.
emotionally, right? And then, having adversity and coming back and things like that. So it's, you know, like I think like every stop I've had, I think I've helped. I think I've left the room better than what it was when I got there, and I think that's your
Yeah.
obligation as a coach. So
What would be your biggest like piece of advice like to give to players? Somebody who maybe is struggling with something or just I guess maybe just biggest piece of advice for their career, how to better themselves and move forward based on, what
you
you've
know,
learned and stuff.
yeah, control your controllables because that's literally all you can do at the end of the day,
Right.
anyways. And then basically, it would be probably embrace your routine and perfect your craft.
Yeah.
As a player,
Right.
absolutely.
There's so many people focus on stuff like you said that you can't control. I mean, if you get injured, there's nothing you can do about that. It happened. You got to deal with it. If you get, if you're working your butt off and the team cuts you, there's nothing you can do about that. You got to, like you said, control what you can control. You got to look forward, I guess, the next step and keep chugging along at whatever you're working on. But yeah, I think in life too, I guess that's a good piece of advice because people always are worried about things. I mean, I do it too. Everyone does it. It's really easy to do it, to worry about things that you have no control over and can
Mhm.
consume so much of your time and just be a kind of a drain on you mentally and obviously that doesn't set anyone up for success.
Right, absolutely.
So, was it difficult to, I guess, the CFL is a little bit different than American football. Was that difficult transition at all? Obviously, you were in it for a long time, so you got the hang of any differences, and now you're coaching there and you've had plenty of time in both leagues. But initially, was that difficult for you with just some subtle differences that they have?
Yeah, it was definitely. It was just a little bit more kind of like backyard football, to be honest with you. The 12th player changes the dynamic of pretty much your whole defense. Like especially where I went to college, where protection was really sound and um, priority, and then, it was this, like that was it in protection. And you get up there and with that extra blitzer with the 12th player, you get that extra blitzer coming this way. So it's the coverages are different, even though they're similar, but just how some pieces can move around. It's just not as structured as it is down south. So it took a little bit. It definitely it takes a while just to kind of get it. The timing's different. Um, just everything. There's a lot more space, and so you can put more touch. The windows are bigger, so you can anticipate throws with more touch. Can lead guys into areas, things like that. So it definitely takes some time. Definitely does take some time. It's not easy.
Right. So what is your, I guess, exact role, like everything you do with your position at the Raiders? I'm sure you have multiple things that you have to focus on.
I'm a receiver coach.
Okay. So is that difficult? I mean, I saw that on there, but like, I mean, you're a quarterback, right? Now
Yep.
you're coaching receivers. Is that hard? You're coaching, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you're a quarterback, you threw to receivers your whole career. You got
Yeah.
the position, but you never were college or pro receiver. So is that hard working with guys that aren't in your position, or is it easy because you still kind of knew what they had to do and how to help them better themselves?
It's a good question. It presents different challenges. I can tell them where to be and how to be there. You know what I mean? And what the quarterback is
Yeah,
expecting and what makes it easy on the quarterback. Now, I didn't know anything about technique and fundamentals at a receiver position, so I had to learn that stuff. And then, I was blessed to have the good players I had, so they coached me on a lot too. It wasn't just me coaching them. So basically I got them to see the field like a quarterback and know how to sit in zone and know how to hold your line, lean and stick, or stair step and man, versus press coverage, right? But zone, it was you run routes totally different in zone than you do in man. And so you just got to learn, okay, how can you manipulate your speed? How can you use your body to create separation and come out negative and friendly for a quarterback? Learning how just to pivot out of a route instead of just throttling or coming out with speed. So there's things like that, right? So my whole thing, and I told them was, that we'll get the technique and fundamentals and things like that down, but I'm going to teach you how to see the field like a quarterback. So basically, when you line up, you'll see who you have to see. You'll know when you have to break hot based off of who, and you'll know when to sit down versus zone. And then, man, it's just all effort. You just got to win it, man. Win. That's what they get paid. They get paid
Right.
to win in man coverage, catch the ball.
Yeah. Do you have to scout receivers as a receivers coach too, or do you have separate scouts that do all the scouting for you guys?
Yeah, we have a scouting department, and so they handle all that stuff. So basically, I'm just I'm a mechanic, and I own a body shop. So they bring the receivers in to me. I tune them up, get them ready, send them out for the race.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good way to look at it. I've never thought of like coaching a position coach in that way. I like that analogy.
That's
So
pro football. You know what I
yeah,
mean? More so,
right.
but really though,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can apply to, I guess, college football too. I mean, you recruit kids and bring them in and do everything you can to make them better and stronger at their position. So I guess it's similar in a sense.
a little different. Yeah, just college, right? Because you're taking kids from their parents. They're in school,
Yeah.
things like that, right? Like, so you're trying to be a mentor to them and
Hey, help
things
them in
like that, a lot
life. I
less stuff,
mean,
right? A lot more stuff off the field. Now you can be like that too, coaching pro, but the thing about pro ball, it's just it's white or black, you know what I mean? It's just, hey, be a professional, get the job done. Okay, if you don't, you're out. If more of you's under me don't, then I'm out, so it's just different mindset, different mentality. Everything's just different.
right.
Pro
Yeah.
ball,
Yeah.
college.
Right. And then going down to high school, obviously, like even way different from that because I mean you're a kid, you're living your life and football isn't everything. When you're a pro, that I mean that's your job. That's what you're doing. That's
Yeah.
all you're doing, and you've got to do a good job at it. Or like you said, somebody else is going to be in your position next week. And I mean, it's kind of just the way pro sports are. You got to be successful and to keep going. So, who was your favorite quarterback or I guess football player growing up as a kid? Was there somebody specific that you looked up to your whole life or
I really liked Barry Sanders. I thought he was really
okay.
good. Yeah, I really liked Barry Sanders, Bo Jackson,
Yeah.
Prime Time, Ronnie Lott, kind of Derek Thomas, kind of those old school guys, Warren Moon, because I was an Oilers
Yeah.
fan, being from Houston.
Yeah. So you're a
Yeah.
Titans fan now because you were an Oilers fan, or do you not follow the NFL much because you're up in the CFL or
No, I follow. Yeah, no, football's a job, so I follow everything. But I'm not a Titans fan. And the Texans came to Houston, I think, my senior year of high school. So it's kind of like, all right, I'll root for them, their hometown. But well, I had a lot of Oiler stuff when I was a kid, so that was Oiler and
yeah.
Cowboys. I had some Cowboy stuff because they were just winning the Super Bowls in the early '90s.
Yeah. Do you root for anyone specific now, or do you just like to like the game because you love the game?
Yeah, see, I don't have I'm not a fan of a team or anything like that. It's more of players and schemes and coaches and things like that.
Yeah. Who do you think's going to win the Super Bowl based on where the NFL is at right now? What teams are looking like? I mean, everyone kind of says it's in like an every week league.
Yeah, I would say it's a toss up right now. Obviously, I don't think anyone's really dominating anyone. San
No.
Fran's kind of getting humbled, and
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. The Ravens might have a shot. The Ravens might have a
Yeah.
shot.
That'd be if I had to pick a team right now, that'd probably be who I pick because they're right now they seem to be like the one team that's really trending in the right direction.
Hmm.
When you watch football just for fun, I mean, can you just watch it for fun, or do you get stuck like, oh, he did this wrong or he did that wrong? You're like analyzing the game because that's what your job is and that's what you've been a player, or can you just like sit back and watch it relaxing?
I can do both. It's usually what it depends on where I'm at too, and what's kind of going on and what game it is. But usually it's more relaxing now. I mean, every now, I mean, because as a coach, you go to work and all you do is watch film all day. So that's where you got to get locked in, zoned in, and that's where you go to work with it. But those tendencies carry over definitely when you're watching at home or like at a restaurant or something like that on a TV, right? You're kind of seeing something, but you just gotta, it depends on who you're with too, things like that. If you're with other coaches, it's one thing. If you're doing something with friends or family, it's another.
Yeah. So you said, about watching film. Are you primarily watching like your film on your players and how they can improve themselves? And then maybe are you watching other teams to kind of see how other receivers are doing things? And if you can pick things, what kind of film are you watching when you have to watch film?
Both, there's self scout and opponent scout. And then there's in season scouting, and then there's off season scouting and projects, things like that. When you're in season, you're really mostly worried about the opponent and then yourself. Me, mainly, I'm more worried about myself than I am the opponent. You definitely need to prepare and you need to know the looks and the tendencies of the opponent, but it's always about. I've always felt as an offense and as a quarterback, it's always about us. And no, it doesn't matter what they do. That's why we have progressions. That's why you have three
Right.
or four receivers go out. So if they cover that one, you go to that one. If they cover that one, you go
Right.
to that one. If they cover
Yeah.
that one, you better run or you better throw the ball away, right? So, never really worried about that, and the only thing to me is just, basically what front are they in the run game, and then what coverage are they in the back end and pass game, I mean, that just kind of, and then you have your tweaks based off that.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of scouting on the other team's defense to, or is that more somebody else's job and then they relay the information to you?
It depends, there's different variables with that, I guess. There's also, I scout defense, yes. Like as a receiver coach, my thing was coverages. So I was in charge of coverages and what was their tendency, what was their percentage of coverage on first down, second and medium, second and long, second and extra long. What is it on third down? What is it in the red zone? What is it tight red? What is it coming out? What is it midfield? What is it down by distance? So those are my areas, things like that. So that's kind of what I did, and basically I would just look for tendencies on how to pick up on coverage, and then when they're going cover zero for sting, you got to throw hot and things like that.
You get worked up easily when you're coaching? Like if your players make a mistake, are you a pretty chill guy when you're coaching, or do you say like you get excited easily? Or
I would say I'm pretty. I'm more. Uh, what's the word I would say? I would use more clear, right? So, I mean, if I've got to yell at a guy, that means either I'm not teaching it right or like he's not the right guy for the job, really, right? It's one of the two.
yeah,
So, how I try to tell everyone, like, especially at the pro level, and even when I was coaching college, I wouldn't yell. But if a guy messes up repeatedly and repeatedly, then there's something wrong. Either I'm not teaching it right, or he's not getting it. We need another guy or something. But yeah, I try to be clarity and direction is the main thing for me as a coach. It's an emotional game. Players are very emotional. It gets up and down. It's long, things like that. So I think it's all about clarity and direction as a coach and being able to really engage them and have them focus and listen, to you. Hey, you know, compartmentalize, control your controllables. Okay. Hey, this is what has to get done here. Look at me. Let me know, you're on the same page, things like that. And how I, like the mechanic analogy is like, I don't really like to fly much. So, but as long as the flight attendants' faces are happy, I'm happy, right? So, I think that's what it is, right? And the flight attendants are the coaches, the passengers are the players, right? And so there's just a lot going on. And as a coach, it's all about clarity and direction and putting them in the best position for them to be, successful, obviously, and reach their full potential.
right. It's so interesting to like listen to different kind of thoughts on how to coach. Obviously, everybody's got a different philosophy on what they think is the right way to do it, and not every coach was a player, so there's somewhere different philosophies get introduced. Guys that played and they know the game from a different way. So yeah, very interesting to kind of hear your take on it. Having one, you're coaching a position that you didn't play, and two, you were a player for a long time, so you've got that kind of whole side to it. So yeah, super interesting to learn about when you're not working or playing and coaching and all that. What are your hobbies? What do you like to do for fun?
Man, really, I'm pretty chill. I like food. I like music. I like art. I like nature. I like water. friends, family,
Like,
stuff
do you
like
like
that.
water, like swimming, boating, like that kind of stuff, or
More of like ocean and river
okay,
stuff like
yeah.
that. Yeah, like being around water, flowing water, not stagnant water, really. And um, yeah, just I don't really need a lot to keep me busy. I've been bored since I was 8 years old, so I'll be all right.
Yeah. So what you said you like food? What's your favorite food?
Mexican,
Okay. Is that
Mexican seafood, actually.
is that easy to find up in Canada or less?
No, because I'm back home in Houston, Texas now.
Okay.
So we got plenty, we got all that here, and then I like seafood. I like Mexican food. Yeah, Mexican seafood, like barbecue, Cajun, Vietnamese, Japanese, Korean barbecue,
Yeah.
soul food. Country cooking. I, I like good food. I'm from
Yeah.
the
See,
South.
yeah. So you're happier with food when you're back home in Houston than when you're up in Canada?
Slightly, you could say that. Kind of like the weather.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, I mean, and that's a really good part too about the CFL season. You're up there for the summer and the fall. It gets chilly there at the end of the fall, but then you're done. So I got back here last week, 88 degrees. Left up there, it was in the 20s, snowing everywhere.
Yeah. And right, and being in the NFL right now, you'd just be getting into the meat of the schedule. And if you're playing Packers or Bears or Buffalo or these teams, you prepare for snow and cold and rain and all of that. But like you said,
Yep.
your season ends right now. So it's gotta be, yeah, nicer from a coaching and a playing aspect. The weather is a little bit more, cooperates and you don't have to deal with as many elements. And obviously it rains in the summer, but 80 degrees in rain is nicer than 40 degrees in rain.
Agreed, right? 100%.
And I'm sure you had plenty of that when you were playing in Iowa too, just like not the greatest weather conditions throughout portions of the season.
It really wasn't bad my whole time there. Like it wasn't bad at all. It was we never had snow or anything like that until bowl
Yeah.
prep, and then you just go inside. So I mean, we actually never really had a cold game. I mean, not like cold, not like Canada cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not even like playing other places in the Big Ten, going to
Mm-mm.
other, Michigan or wherever.
No, never really was that bad. Just basically to Thanksgiving. That's it's very doable. I think. Like I played in games in Canada that were -30. -40. I mean, there's icicles on face mask and on facial hair. I mean, it's just a sloppy. It's crazy. I don't even know how it works, but that's cold. But it never got that
Yeah.
cold. Never got that cold in college.
Yeah, it's got to be tough to throw the football if it's negative 30 degrees. That can't be fun.
Hmm.
So this might be a hard question. Maybe it's an easy question. I don't know. I figured we could end on this. What's the most memorable moment from your career? Kind of looking back on where you've been and what you've done. Is there a game or something that really just stands out in your memory? Like this was a high point in my career. This is something that I'm never going to forget.
There's a lot to be honest with you. I mean, in high school and college and then professionally. I mean, to really have one that stands out, I don't know. My last play that was on the field for, I threw a touchdown pass. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So,
Was that your
but like I
last
said, I mean,
was that your last pro play?
yeah, yeah, like my last play in football period. So that
Okay.
ended up being kind of cool. But I mean, you won Big Ten championships, won Grey Cups, so it was, there's a lot. I really couldn't tell you.
Right. Well, the last, throwing a touchdown in your last play, man, that's the perfect way to exit the game, and go
Right? I
out on
thought
a
that was
high
cool
note.
too. Right?
Yeah.
I did too.
Better than like
Yeah.
if you threw an interception as your last play, that kind of always sting.
All right. No kidding.
Yeah.
No
Or
kidding.
the guys that, retired or maybe they come back and then they have like a losing season and then they retire. It's like, well, would have been better just stay retired and go out on top, but
Right.
throw a touchdown on your way out. You're kind of going out on top. You're best you can. I'm out of here.
That's it, man. I'm going to Hawaii.
Did you, after you were done playing, take a vacation, nice long vacation?
No, because I ended up taking a job in Coastal, so I moved to Myrtle Beach. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, well, that's nice weather. I mean, coming from
Not
Canada, get to
bad.
move down to Myrtle Beach.
Not bad.
Awesome. Well, Drew, thanks for popping on the pod. You're the first, guest that had anything to do with the CFL. Like I said, it was very interesting to learn about, different things with coaching, different philosophies, perspectives, and kind of your take on some things and your journey. So thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Good, Alex. Appreciate it, man.